Hello, welcome to the video. In today's lesson, we're going to look at section 1.3, where we're going to be using midpoint and distance formula. So we're going to figure out how you can find the midpoint and length of a segment in a coordinate plane. So before we look at that, we're going to first kind of establish what midpoints are, and then uh, kind of use that initially to help us solve problems, and then go into the coordinate portion of our lesson. So anytime that you hear the word midpoint, uh, with respect to a line segment, what is happening is it's cutting the line segment in half into two equal parts, or into two congruent parts. So if you notice in this diagram, we have point M is our midpoint, which means that AM is going to be the same distance as a line segment MB. So line segment AM is the same as line segment MB. Below this, we talk about a segment bisector, which means you could have a point, which kind of like we have a point M, a ray, a line segment, or a plane can intersect segment, which would then also be the midpoint. So in this particular example, they're looking at line CD, and it is called, it says that it is a segment bisector. So if you hear in directions state something that is a segment bisector, or if you read something that says that one of these points, rays, lines, line segments, planes bisects a line segment, then you can automatically say that those uh, that point is a midpoint, and then you can use the top diagram just to go from there, saying like, oh, this cut in half. We know that those measurements are going to be congruent or the same, whatever information that they give us. So here, they're telling you that in this skateboard design, line segment VW, which is right here, VW bisects line segment uh, XY. So at point T. So basically what they're saying is, because that line segment bisects XY, that means that XT is the same distance as TY. Well, they're telling you that XT is 39.9 centimeters. They want you to find XY. Well, if this is 39.9 centimeters, that means that TY is also 39.9 centimeters. So to find XY, you're just going to take 39.9 plus 39.9, add them together. So when you do that, you get a value of 79.8 centimeters. Here, it's telling you that uh, identify the segment bisector of PQ, then find PQ. So identifying it here, so like, okay, this is where, so it looks like the segment bisector in number one is ray MN, and looks like for number two, the segment bisector is point M. Then they want you to find the distance of PQ. So if we look here, PQ is essentially going to be in number one, it's going to be equal to 1 and 7/8 plus 1 and 7/8. So if you add those together, you would get, looks like, so let's make those into improper fractions. So that would be what, 15 over 8 plus 15 over 8. That would equal, add them together and do reducing. We got 15 over 4, which to make it back into a mixed number would be 3 and 3/4. And there's no measurement, so we just leave it like that. You could put units on there if you wanted to. For number 2, we got PQ. Again, same idea. It's going to be 2 and 2/7 plus 2 and 2/7. Like the previous example, make it into an improper fraction. So it's going to be what, 14, 15, 16. So it's going to be what, 16/7 plus 16/7. And this will be what, 32 over 7. And to make this back into a mixed number, it is going to be what, 4 and 4/7. In this example, it's telling you that point M is the midpoint of line segment VW. Find the length of VM. So VM is here. They want you to find that length. They are telling you that they got the hash marks there. So they're saying that VM is congruent to MW. In order to find VM, we need to find what the value of X is. So what we can say is, we can say that VM will be equal to MW. So we can just substitute what they have here. So VM is actually 4X minus 1, and MW is 3X plus 3. So I'm going to get 3X to the other side, subtracting 3X to both sides, and I'm also going to add 1 to both sides here. So this gets canceled, this gets canceled. 4X minus 3X is 1X, and 3 plus 1 is 4. X equals 4 doesn't answer the question yet. They want you to find the length of VM. So VM is essentially going to be 4 times 4, because now we know that X is 4, subtracted by 1. So 4 times 4 is 16, 16 minus 1 is 15. So VM is actually going to be 15. So make sure when you have problems like this, make sure you know what they're asking of you, and a lot of times whatever the variable is equal to doesn't answer the whole question. So make sure that you look at the whole question and answer it appropriately. Getting into coordinate planes, you can discover what's the midpoint of a coordinate plane by using the midpoint formula. All you have to do is whatever endpoints are given to you, what you're going to do is you're going to add up the two x coordinates of the two endpoints and then divide it by 2. Same thing goes for the y coordinates. Uh, you're going to add up the two y coordinates and then divide it by 2. When it comes to discovering what the midpoint is for a coordinate plane, your answer is going to be a coordinate. It's going to be an x comma y answer. We're gonna look at the distance formula in a little bit. That one's going to be just a number. It's not a coordinate. So when you're looking at midpoint, think of it as it's going to be a coordinate. All right, it's going to be a coordinate as an answer. So here it says that endpoints are S and they give you the points for R, which is 1 comma negative 3, and S, which is 4 comma 2. They want you to find the midpoint M. So again, to find that, you're just going to take your two x coordinates, 1 plus 4 divided by 2, comma, take your two y coordinates, negative 3 plus 2 divided by 2. So that's going to be our point M. So 1 plus 4 is 5 divided by 2, so it's going to be 5 halves, comma. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1, negative 1 over 2, so that's going to be negative 1 half. So my midpoint is 5 halves, comma, negative 1 half. Looking here, it says that the midpoint of JK is M is at 2 comma 1. One endpoint is at 1 comma 4. They want you to find the coordinates of endpoint K. So here is how you go about finding this one. What I like to do is I like to write out the formula for midpoint. So it's going to be like x1 plus x2 divided by 2 comma y1 plus y2 all divided by 2. What you have to do is you're going to pick one of the endpoints and you're going to call it either x1, x2, or y1 or y2. So with j, I'm just going to say, all right, that's my x1 and that's my y1. So you're going to separate this into two separate equations, all right? Your x coordinate equation and your y coordinate equation, because that's what m, your midpoint, is equal to. So what you're going to do is I'm just going to have my x coordinate equation right here, my y coordinate equation over there. My midpoint x coordinate is 2, so that's why I'm going to write 2 over here, and that's going to be equal to the formula. And I'm going to use this portion of the formula to help me solve for that unknown endpoint k. So I already know that my x1 is 1, so I'm going to write 1 plus x of 2, and I'm going to divide it by 2. So now, in order to get rid of this 2, I'm going to multiply 2 to both sides of the equation. That cancels out those 2 here. 2 times 2 is 4, so now I got 4 equals 1 plus that x of 2. Subtract both sides by 1. 3 is equal to x of 2. Now you're going to use your y portion of the midpoint formula. I identified that my midpoint y coordinate is 1, so now I'm going to have 1 equals y1, which is 4, so it's going to be 4 plus y sub 2 all divided by 2. Same thing that you did for x, you're going to do for y. You're going to multiply 2 to both sides. That's going to cancel. 2 times 1 is 2. This is equal to 4 plus y sub 2, subtracting 4 to both sides, so negative 2 equals y sub 2. So your point k is going to be equal to 3 comma negative 2. And I advise you to check your work to make sure that it is in fact going to work out. So if I have 3 here, 3 plus 1 is 4, 4 divided by 2 is 2, checks out. Negative 2 plus 4 is 2, 2 divided by 2 is 1, it checks out. So 3 comma negative 2 is my result. All right, now we're going to look at using the distance formula. And the distance formula is kind of derived off of the Pythagorean theorem of a triangle. Hopefully you've had some experience looking at that. But mainly what you're doing is just using the coordinates and substituting it into the correct spot. So you have your x2 subtracted by your x1, you square it, and that's going to be the sum of the difference of your y2 minus your y1, and then you square it, and whatever it is, you take your square root. remember that the distance formula, your answer is a number, not a coordinate. Your answer is a number, not a coordinate. So here it says your school is 4 miles east and 1 mile south of your apartment. So let's draw this out. So this point right here, we're going to call this the apartment. And it says 4 miles east, so 4 miles east is that way, and 1 mile south. And that's the school. It says a recycling center where your class is going on a field trip is 2 miles east and 3 miles north of your apartment. They want you to estimate. So we have, so 2 miles east. So that's where 2 is. And 3 miles north. Of your apartment. So this is that recycling center. They want you to estimate the distance between the recycling center and your school. So they're looking for this portion right here. So what I would do is, let's imagine that this is, a coordinate plane, so to speak. So if we were to give these coordinate planes, so you got to give 1, 0, 0. Let's say your apartment is at 0, 0, because everything seemed to be going off of that. So the point for the recycling center would be 2, 3. And the school would be coordinate 4, -1. All right, if it helps, we could put in a coordinate plane to kind of represent it, just to kind of give you an idea. So this is the apartment. They're telling you that the school is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 east and here. So that's why it's 4, -1. Recycling center is at 2 east and 3 north. So that's basically what they're looking at. So this is why I said this was 2, 3, and this was 4, -1. Again, you could have used any point as your 0, 0, and that's as your apartment. So finding the distance, you're going to use the distance formula. So I'm just going to call this x1, and this is y1, this is x2, this is y2. Plug in the formula. So distance is going to be equal to the square root of x2, which is 4, subtracted by x1, which is 2, quantity squared, plus y2, which is -1, minus 3, quantity squared. I always check to see if there's any cross the line change of sign situations. In this case, there's not. So 4 minus 2 is 2. Square that is 4. So now I got distance equals the square root of 4 plus -1 minus 3, which is -4. Square that. That's also, that's going to be 16. And so distance here is going to be 4 plus 16, which is the square root of 20. They want you to estimate. So square root of 20 is not a perfect square, so it is about 4.47, I believe, is it miles? Yeah, it's miles away. You could have ran to the nearest tenth too. It didn't really specify on the rounding of it. And that is being able to use midpoint and distance formula. Hope this helps. Till next time.